Listen to me. Before you scroll, before you doubt, before you tell yourself this message is not for you, pause right now, because God is not speaking randomly in this moment. God does not interrupt your attention by accident. If these words have reached you, it is because your heart has been wrestling, your spirit has been questioning, and your mind has been going back and forth between hope and fear. You have been asking silently, sometimes with tears, sometimes with exhaustion, did I miss it? Was I wrong? Did I walk away from what God chose for me? And now hear this with clarity and trembling reverence. God just revealed that this is still the one He chose for you. Many people believe that when things become complicated, when distance appears, when silence grows, that God has changed His mind. But God does not choose the way people choose. People choose emotionally, impulsively, and conditionally. God chooses deliberately, purposefully, and eternally. When God places His hand on something, He does not remove it because of temporary confusion. When God ordains a connection, He does not revoke it because of human weakness. You must understand this truth deeply. Delay does not mean denial, and separation does not mean cancellation. What God chooses, He chooses with foresight. He already saw the mistakes, the misunderstandings, the time apart, the tears, and the waiting, and He still said, "This is the one." You have been questioning your discernment, replaying conversations, analyzing moments, wondering if you misheard God. But God is not a God of confusion. If He allowed you to feel peace before, if He aligned your spirit without forcing your emotions, if He gave you a quiet certainty instead of chaotic obsession, that was not coincidence. God speaks first in peace, not panic. What happened afterward? The doubts, the interference, the opinions of others, the timing issues, those are not proof that God changed His mind. They are proof that growth was required before fulfillment. God will never unite what has not yet matured. He separates not to punish, but to prepare. There are seasons when God pulls people apart to refine them individually, not because the connection is wrong, but because the foundation must be strengthened. You wanted union, but God wanted transformation first. You wanted answers, but God wanted endurance. You wanted confirmation through circumstances, but God wanted confirmation through trust. This is why the path felt confusing. This is why it felt like God was silent. But silence is not absence. Silence is often God watching to see if you will still believe without reassurance. And you did. Even when you were tired, even when you tried to move on, even when you told yourself it was over, something in you could not fully let go. That was not attachment. That was alignment. God is not careless with destiny connections. When He chooses with intention, beyond romance, beyond emotion, beyond comfort. He chooses with purpose that stretches into generations. The one He chose for you is not just meant to walk beside you. They are meant to sharpen you, humble you, challenge you, and expand you. That kind of connection cannot be sustained by shallow readiness. That kind of union demands depth, surrender, and timing. This is why God allowed the distance. This is why God allowed the pause. Not to remove the promise, but to protect it from premature destruction. You thought the waiting meant you were forgotten, but God was working in places you could not see. He was shaping hearts, dismantling pride, healing wounds, correcting patterns, and removing distractions. God will never bring two people together while they are still ruled by fear, insecurity, or ego. He waits until both can stand in obedience, not desperation. That is why this season tested you. That is why you were forced to confront your own weaknesses. God was not withholding love. He was teaching you how to carry it without breaking it. Understand this clearly. When God reveals that someone is chosen, He does not reveal it to torment you. He reveals it to anchor you. The enemy of your peace wants you to believe that because time passed, because communication faded, because circumstances changed, the revelation is no longer valid. But God does not operate on human timelines. What feels long to you is brief to Him. What feels final to you is still flexible in His hands. He can restore what you thought was lost without repeating the pain that caused the separation. You must stop asking, why hasn't it happened yet? And start asking, what is God perfecting in me right now? Because the delay is not about punishment, it is about positioning. God is aligning character with calling. He is ensuring that when the connection is restored, it will not collapse under pressure. What God is building now is not temporary happiness, it is enduring peace. And peace takes time. There were moments you tried to convince yourself to move on, to choose someone else, to force something new. But every time you tried, your spirit felt unsettled. Not because you were idolizing the person, but because you were stepping outside divine order. God does not bless replacements when He has already chosen. Substitutes may distract you briefly, but they will never satisfy you deeply. This is why nothing else felt right. This is why every alternative felt hollow. God was protecting you from building your future on the wrong foundation. Do not confuse hardship with disapproval. Some of the most chosen paths are the most tested ones. God tests what He values. He refines what He intends to last. If this connection was insignificant, it would have faded without resistance. But it did not. It lingered, it echoed, it returned in your prayers, in your thoughts, in quiet moments you could not explain. That persistence is not obsession. It is calling. And God does not call what He does not plan to fulfill. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not foolish for believing. Faith is not measured by how quickly things happen. It is measured by how firmly you stand when they don't. God saw you remain respectful when you could have become bitter. He saw you pray when you could have blamed. He saw you grow when you could have hardened. And because of that, what He is preparing will not resemble the pain you went through. It will exceed it. God is not asking you to chase. He is asking you to trust. What He chooses, He brings together without striving. When the time comes, it will not be forced, confusing, or fragile. It will feel steady. It will feel aligned. It will feel peaceful, even if emotions are strong. God does not reunite through chaos. He reunites through clarity. And that clarity begins inside you before it appears around you. Right now, God is restoring confidence in your spirit. He is reminding you that you did not imagine the connection. You did not fabricate the peace. You did not misinterpret the confirmation. The separation was not rejection, it was instruction. And now God is revealing that the story is not finished. What He chose has not expired. What He promised has not been revoked. What He aligned has not been replaced. You must guard your heart in this season, not by closing it, but by anchoring it in trust. Do not allow fear to rewrite what God spoke in certainty. Do not allow eons to sabotage what God is aligning in precision. The one He chose is not lost. They are being prepared just as you are. And when God completes His work, the reunion will not require convincing, forcing, or questioning. It will unfold naturally because God Himself will be the foundation. This is a season of quiet strength, a season where you stop explaining your faith to people who cannot see what God has shown you. A season where you stop seeking validation from circumstances and start resting in revelation. God did not reveal this to confuse you. He revealed it to stabilize you. So stand firm, stay faithful, stay open. What God has chosen is still chosen. And what He is orchestrating is already in motion, even now, as your heart learns to rest instead of rush, to trust instead of test, to believe without needing proof, while God continues to align every unseen detail according to His will and His timing, shaping both paths so that when they finally meet again, they meet not in uncertainty, but in strength, obedience, and a peace that has been earned through waiting, rather than demanded through fear. There is a deeper layer to this revelation that God is unfolding now, and it is not merely about reunion, it is about alignment with destiny. God never joins two lives simply for comfort, He joins them for assignment. What He has chosen for you carries responsibility, influence, and spiritual weight. That is why God has been teaching you patience beyond emotion and obedience beyond desire. He has been training your heart to recognize purpose over pleasure, depth over excitement, covenant over convenience. What is coming is not fragile, and God does not hand something strong to a heart that is still unstable. He strengthens you first. Many people mistake emotional intensity for divine confirmation, but God does not speak through emotional storms. He speaks through inner steadiness. Passion can rise and fall, attraction can fluctuate, but when God chooses, He plants a quiet certainty that remains even when feelings are tested. That is what you experienced. Even in moments when you felt tired, even when disappointment whispered lies, the core knowing did not disappear. That knowing was not wishful thinking. It was God imprinting truth in your spirit. God marks what is His, and that mark does not fade with time. You must also understand that God sometimes allows misunderstanding not to divide, but to reveal. Separation exposes what still needs healing. Distance uncovers motives. Silence brings hidden insecurities to the surface. God allowed you to see what you still needed to surrender, so that when restoration comes, it does not repeat the same fractures. God is not interested in repeating cycles. He is committed to completing processes. And completion requires honesty, humility, and growth on both sides. This season has been reshaping how you love. God has been moving you away from attachment toward trust, away from anxiety toward faith, away from control toward surrender. You are learning to love without gripping, to care without demanding, to believe without chasing. That transformation matters. God does not unite two people until both can stand whole rather than clinging out of lack. He desires union that flows from fullness, not fear. There is also a timing dimension that many overlook. God is not only preparing hearts, He is aligning circumstances. He sees intersections you cannot see, obstacles you cannot predict, and consequences you cannot imagine. What seems delayed to you is actually protected by Him. If things had happened earlier, the weight would have crushed the connection. If answers had come sooner, growth would have been shallow. God's timing is not slow, it is exact. He moves when obedience has matured enough to sustain blessing. Do not allow outside voices to erode what God revealed to you privately. Not everyone understands divine alignment, and not everyone needs to. Some people interpret faith as foolishness because they measure life by what they can see. But God calls you to walk by trust, not by visible certainty. What God confirms in your spirit does not require public approval. The loudest opposition often comes when something is closest to fulfillment. This is why you must guard your peace fiercely. God is also teaching you discernment. He has shown you the difference between longing that drains and hope that strengthens. What He chose for you does not weaken your faith. It deepens it, even. In waiting, you have grown closer to God, not farther from Him. That is how you know this is a line. Anything not from God eventually pulls you away from Him. What He ordains draws you deeper into trust, reflection, and surrender. You may wonder why God did not simply make everything smooth from the beginning. But smooth beginnings do not always produce strong endings. God is far more invested in longevity than convenience. He would rather allow a hard season that builds wisdom than grant an easy path that collapses later. This is not cruelty, it is care. God protects what He values by preparing it thoroughly. There is also restoration happening beneath the surface. God is healing perceptions, correcting misunderstandings, and softening hearts. He is teaching both sides how to listen rather than react, how to respond rather than assume, how to approach with humility rather than defense. When God restores, He does not bring things back unchanged. He brings them back refined. What returns is wiser, calmer, and stronger than what left. Do not confuse stillness with stagnation. God works powerfully in quiet seasons. Roots grow in silence. Strength forms underground. When movement finally becomes visible, it happens quickly because the foundation is already established. You are closer than you think, not because you see signs everywhere, but because God is completing inner work. The greatest confirmations often come after the greatest internal shifts. This is also a season for gratitude. Thank God not only for what is coming, but for what He prevented. There are paths you could have taken that would have cost you peace, identity, and spiritual clarity. God redirected you even when it felt like loss. What you call disappointment was actually divine protection. God never removes something without preparing something better aligned with His will. You are learning now that faith does not demand certainty. It rests in character. You trust God not because you know every outcome, but because you know who He is. He is faithful even when circumstances are unclear. He is consistent even when people are inconsistent. He is intentional even when timing feels confusing. And because He chose deliberately, He will complete faithfully. Stay anchored. Stay obedient. Stay open without being desperate. Let God finish His work without interference. What He has chosen is not fragile. What He has aligned is not accidental. What He is bringing together will not require force. It will flow in peace. And when the moment arrives, you will recognize it not by chaos or urgency, but by calm assurance, mutual clarity, and a deep inner knowing that God Himself has gone before you, prepared the way, and fulfilled what He revealed long before your eyes could see it. There is also a calling on your obedience in this season that cannot be ignored. God is watching not just what you believe, but how you behave while you wait. Waiting reveals what truly rules the heart. When waiting produces bitterness, it exposes misplaced trust. But when waiting produces discipline, prayer, self-control, and clarity, it proves that faith is rooted in God and not in outcome. God is not impressed by impatience masked as passion. He is honored by restraint, guided by trust. What He is forming in you now is the ability to hold blessing without worshiping it. God is also recalibrating your understanding of love itself. You once thought love was proven by effort, by pursuit, by constant reassurance. But God is teaching you that true alignment does not require desperation. What He chooses does not need to be chased. It responds in time. God is dismantling the belief that you must exhaust yourself to keep what is meant for you. What He ordains is sustained by Him, not by your anxiety. This revelation alone is reshaping how you will love going forward. Not just in this connection, but in every relationship He entrusts to you. There is a sacred boundary God has been establishing around your heart. He has been teaching you when to speak and when to be silent, when to step forward and when to step back. Silence has not been weakness, it has been wisdom. God sometimes instructs restraint because premature words can damage what patience is preserving. He knows when hearts are ready to receive truth, and He knows when silence is the only language that allows healing to complete its work. You must also recognize that God does not reveal choice without requiring faith to carry it. Revelation is not meant to remove uncertainty. It is meant to anchor you through it. If God gave you every detail, trust would not be necessary. But God grows faith by allowing ambiguity while asking you to remain steady. This is how spiritual strength is built. Not by clarity alone, but by consistency in trust when clarity is delayed. There is a spiritual maturity developing in you now that could not have been formed in ease. God has been teaching you discernment over emotion, peace over impulse, obedience over assumption. You are no longer reacting, you are reflecting. You are no longer rushing, you are listening. These are signs of readiness. God does not elevate the immature, no matter how sincere their intentions. He elevates the prepared, and preparation often looks like restraint when everything in you wants resolution. You may not realize it yet, but God has been protecting the future version of you. The person you are becoming could not thrive in the environment you once wanted. The you that is emerging requires depth, patience, and clarity. God separated what could not yet support that growth. This was not loss. It was alignment with who you are becoming. God always shapes the vessel before He pours into it. Another truth you must carry with confidence is this: God does not play with hearts. If He allowed this connection to touch your spirit deeply, it was not to leave you empty. God is purposeful in every allowance. He permits what serves His design, not what entertains emotion. Even the pain served a purpose. It stripped illusions, refined motives, and redirected your dependence fully toward Him. What remains now is purer, steadier, and anchored in truth rather than fantasy. God is also preparing you to recognize the difference between familiarity and calling. Familiarity can feel safe, but calling brings growth. God does not choose what keeps you comfortable. He chooses what expands you. The one He chose for you is connected to your growth, not your stagnation. That is why the journey has required stretching, patience, and surrender. Comfort would not have required this much transformation. Do not underestimate what God is doing in unseen places. While you have been growing internally, He has been orchestrating externally. Conversations you know nothing about, realizations happening quietly, hearts being softened, perspectives being shifted. God works holistically. He does not focus on one side while ignoring the other. What He aligns completely. And when alignment is complete, movement becomes effortless. This is why you must remain grounded. Do not rush ahead of God out of excitement or fear. Do not retreat out of disappointment. Stay positioned. Obedience is not passive, it is active trust. It is choosing discipline over impulse, faith over speculation, peace over panic. God honors those who can wait without wavering. You are learning now that divine choice is not validated by ease, but by endurance. What lasts is what is TED. What survives uncertainty is what is rooted in God. And what God roots, no season can uproot. This revelation is not meant to stir restlessness. It is meant to establish peace. You are not waiting without purpose. You're being shaped for permanence. Hold this truth firmly. God is faithful to complete what He reveals. He does not speak carelessly, and He does not abandon what He initiates. What He chose remains chosen. What He aligned remains aligned. And what He is preparing will arrive not rushed, not delayed, but precisely when obedience, maturity, and timing converge according to His will, His wisdom, and His perfect design. There is a refining fire in this season that is strengthening your spiritual authority. God is not only shaping your heart, He is sharpening your discernment so that when fulfillment comes, you will recognize it without fear. Fear clouds recognition, but faith clarifies it. God is teaching you to trust His voice above your emotions, above circumstances, above the opinions of others. When God speaks, He does not compete for attention. He waits for surrender. And now your spirit has become quiet enough to hear Him clearly. God is also correcting how you interpret resistance. Resistance does not always signal the wrong path. Often it confirms a meaningful one. Anything insignificant is rarely opposed. Anything without consequence is rarely tested. What God has chosen carries weight, and weight attracts pressure. But pressure does not destroy what is anchored in God. It reveals its strength. You were not meant to escape the test. You were meant to pass through it with integrity and tact. You must understand that God values obedience more than outcome. He watches how you honor Him when the promise feels distant. He observes whether you compromise your character in moments of uncertainty, and you did not. You chose dignity over desperation. You chose prayer over manipulation. You chose growth over bitterness. These choices are not small. They are evidence of readiness. God entrusts more to those who can remain faithful with little clarity. There is also a divine exchange happening within you. God has been removing the need to control and replacing it with the strength to trust. Control exhausts the soul, but trust restores it. God never asked you to manage the promise. He asked you to believe Him with it. And belief does not mean passive waiting. It means active alignment. It means living in a way that reflects trust even before evidence appears. God is reshaping your expectations so that when restoration comes, you will not project old fears onto new beginnings. He is clearing emotional residue that could distort perception. He is teaching you to approach what He chose with humility rather than assumption. When God restores, He restores with wisdom. What returns is not a repeat of the past. It is a continuation refined by growth. You are also being taught the power of restraint in speech. Words spoken prematurely can age what patience is building. God has been teaching you to speak from peace, not from longing. Silence in obedience carries more power than words spoken in fear. God knows the right moment for truth to be released, and He honors those who wait for His timing rather than forcing their own. Another dimension God is revealing is identity. You are no longer defined by whether the promise has manifested. Your worth is not suspended in waiting. God has been anchoring your identity in Him, not in outcome. This is crucial because any blessing received before identity is secure becomes a source of instability. God does not build futures on fragile foundations. God is also teaching you how to recognize alignment through peace rather than intensity. Intensity excites the soul, but peace anchors it. What God brings will not feel frantic or confusing. It will feel steady. Even if emotions are strong, there will be clarity without pressure, movement without force, connection without anxiety. God does not rush what He has carefully prepared. Do not underestimate the spiritual authority you are gaining through endurance. Endurance is not passive suffering. It is active faith. It is choosing obedience daily without guarantee. It is standing firm when answers are delayed. God strengthens those who do not abandon Him when understanding is incomplete. What He entrusts to you next will require this level of faith, and you are being equipped for it now. God is also aligning your vision. We're no longer focused only on what you want, but on what He wants to build through you. This shift matters. When desire aligns with purpose, fulfillment becomes sustainable. God does not bless ambition disconnected from obedience. He blesses surrender aligned with calling. You must remain attentive, not anxious. God often moves suddenly after long seasons of stillness. What appears unchanged for a long time can shift quickly when preparation is complete. This is why you must stay spiritually alert without becoming emotionally restless. God's timing does not announce itself, it reveals itself. Hold fast to this truth. God does not reveal what He does not intend to fulfill. He does not awaken hope to abandon it. He does not begin what He will not complete. What He chose remains under His authority, not under time, distance, or circumstance. And as you remain faithful, grounded, and surrendered, what He has been preparing in silence will emerge in clarity, not as a surprise, but as a confirmation that God has been faithful all along, working beyond what you could see, shaping outcomes beyond what you could control, and fulfilling what He revealed according to His wisdom and His perfect will. There is a sacred responsibility God places on those who are entrusted with revelation. When God shows you something before it manifests, He is inviting you into stewardship, not speculation. Stewardship requires reverence. It requires guarding the promise from doubt, from idle talk, from ear-based decisions. God never reveals future alignment so that you can obsess over it. He reveals it so that you can prepare to carry it well. Preparation is worship. Waiting in obedience is worship. Trusting God when nothing seems to move is one of the purest expressions of faith. God has also been exposing hidden attachments, not to punish you, but to free you. Anything that competes with God for your peace must be surrendered, even if it once felt connected to the promise. God will never allow a person, a desire, or an outcome to become an idol in your heart. This season has been stripping away dependence so that when the connection is restored, it is rooted in God, not in need. What God builds on surrender cannot be shaken by circumstance. You are learning that patience is not passivity, it is strength under control. It takes far more courage to wait with integrity than to act out of fear. God is shaping your inner world so that your outer world can be sustained. Many people rush into alignment before they have learned endurance, and what they receive collapses under pressure. God is ensuring that what comes into your life will last, because it will be supported by maturity rather than impulse. There is also a deep lesson God is teaching about trust beyond logic. Faith does not require you to understand every step. It requires you to honor the one who orders the steps. God is not obligated to explain His process, but He is faithful to complete it. When you stop demanding explanations and start trusting direction, peace replaces anxiety. God leads those who are willing to follow without full visibility. God has been training your heart to respond instead of react. Reaction is driven by emotion, response is guided by wisdom. This distinction will protect the future God is preparing. When restoration comes, it will require calm strength, not unresolved emotion. God is ensuring that you meet the blessing with stability rather than vulnerability. What He restores will not reopen old wounds, it will confirm healing. Another truth God is revealing is the power of humility. Pride rushes, humility waits. Pride demands proof, humility trusts character. God resists what is driven by self-will, but He advances what is surrendered. Your willingness to step back, to pray rather than push, to listen rather than insist, these choices have not gone unnoticed. God elevates those who can lower themselves before Him. God is also showing you that alignment does not erase individuality. You are not being prepared to lose yourself. You are being prepared to stand fully in who God created you to be. True alignment strengthens identity rather than dissolving it. God does not unite two incomplete people hoping to be made whole. He prepares two whole individuals who can walk together without losing themselves. You are becoming spiritually fluent in discernment. You can now sense when God is saying, wait, even without words. You can recognize when peace is leading, even without explanation. This is growth. This is maturity. God trusts those who can recognize His guidance without constant reassurance. When fulfillment comes, this discernment will protect it. God is also reminding you that fulfillment is not the end. It is the beginning of responsibility. What He chooses must be nurtured with prayer, wisdom, and obedience. He is preparing you not just to receive, but to sustain. This is why the journey has required so much inner work. God does not pour into vessels that are unprepared to steward what they receive. Remain grounded in gratitude. Gratitude keeps the heart soft while waiting. Gratitude reminds you that God has already been faithful even before the manifestation. Every lesson, every delay, every moment of growth has been purposeful. Nothing has been wasted. God redeems time by using it to build depth. Stay anchored in God, not in anticipation. Anticipation without grounding leads to restlessness, but anticipation rooted in trust leads to peace. God does not want you living on edge. He wants you living in confidence. Confidence that He is in control. Confidence that He has not forgotten. Confidence that what He revealed still stands. Hold firm to this truth. As you continue forward, God's choices are not temporary. His will is not fragile. His promises are not affected by distance, silence, or delay. What He has chosen remains under His authority. And as you continue to walk in obedience, humility, and faith, the alignment He revealed will unfold, not by force, not by fear, but by the steady, unmistakable hand of God, bringing together what He ordained at the moment He determined, in a way that brings peace, clarity, and honor to His name alone. Now let your heart settle into this final truth with unwavering confidence. God has never been confused about His choice. What wavered was not His decision, but human readiness. God does not revoke what He ordains. He refines those entrusted with it. Every pause, every quiet stretch, every unanswered moment was not abandonment, it was instruction. God was teaching you how to stand without leaning on certainty, how to believe without seeing, how to remain faithful without reassurance. And because you endured, you are no longer the same person who first received the revelation. You are stronger, wiser, and more anchored in God than ever before. What God has chosen for you will not arrive as chaos or emotional urgency. It will come with clarity, peace, and mutual alignment that requires no convincing. You will recognize it not because it overwhelms you, but because it steadies you. God does not fulfill promises in ways that drain your spirit. He fulfills them in ways that confirm His presence. When it happens, you will look back and understand why every delay mattered, why every lesson was necessary, why every moment of waiting shaped you into someone capable of sustaining what He prepared. Until that moment fully unfolds, continue to walk in obedience without anxiety, faith without fear, and trust without condition. Let God complete what He began without interference. What He revealed remains true. What He chose remains chosen. And what He is bringing together will stand, not because of effort, timing, or circumstance, but because God Himself has been the author, the guide, and the foundation from the very beginning. Something is shifting in your life right now. While you are watching, while you are listening, God is already moving pieces behind the scenes. You have been wondering why doors have closed, why certain people walked away, why familiar paths suddenly felt uncomfortable. It is because God is preparing you for a divine interruption. God is sending someone to change your life. And when God sends a person, everything changes. Your vision changes, your strength changes, your direction changes, your capacity changes. There are seasons when God works silently, and there are seasons when God works suddenly. You are stepping into a season of sudden alignment. You may feel tired, but do not confuse exhaustion with abandonment. God has not forgotten you. God has been watching your endurance, your faith, your tears, and your silent prayers. God saw you when no one clapped for you. God heard you when your voice broke in the dark. God knows how long you have waited, how many times you stood alone believing when it would have been easier to give up. This is why God is sending someone, not to replace your strength, but to multiply it. God never sends people randomly. God sends people with purpose, timing, and precision. When God sends someone into your life, it is because you are ready for the next level of responsibility, blessing, and growth. Some people come as confirmation, some come as correction, some come as connection, some come as protection, and some come as acceleration. You must understand this truth deeply. The right person sent by God can do more in one moment than years of struggle without alignment. God uses people as vessels of change, carriers of wisdom, mirrors of truth, and instruments of transformation. You may have been praying for change, but God often answers change through people. You ask God for clarity, and God sends someone who speaks words that awaken your spirit. You ask God for opportunity, and God sends someone who opens a door you could not open yourself. You ask God for healing, and God sends someone whose presence restores your courage. This is how God works, not always through thunder, but often through a human voice, a divine encounter, a timely connection. There are people who walk into your life and stay forever, and there are people who come only for a season. Do not mistake temporary assignments for permanent roles. God knows exactly how long each person is needed. Some are sent to teach you what love is. Some are sent to teach you what boundaries are. Some are sent to show you what faith looks like in action. Others are sent to reveal what you must never tolerate again. Every divine encounter has a lesson, and every lesson moves you closer to your destiny. Right now, God is refining your discernment. Not everyone who smiles at you is sent by God, but when God sends someone, your spirit will recognize the alignment. There will be peace even if the path is challenging. There will be clarity even if the journey is unfamiliar. There will be growth even if it requires discomfort. God never sends someone to shrink you. God sends people to stretch you, strengthen you, and elevate you. You must stop seeing delay as denial. Delay is often preparation. God was preparing you to recognize the gift when it arrives. If the right person had come earlier, you might not have been ready to receive them, honor them, or grow with them. God does not waste divine connections. God waits until your character, mindset, and faith can sustain what is coming. This is why some relationships ended. They could not go where God is taking you. There is a divine orchestration happening right now. While you sleep, God is aligning schedules. While you work, God is positioning hearts. While you wait, God is arranging meetings. The person God is sending may come through an unexpected conversation, a sudden opportunity, a moment you almost skipped, or a place you nearly avoided. Do not underestimate ordinary moments. God often hides extraordinary change inside simple encounters. This person will not come to take your place, They will come to reveal your potential. They will not come to control you. They will come to sharpen you. They will not come to distract you from God. They will come to draw you closer to God. When God sends someone, their presence pushes you toward purpose, not away from it. They challenge your excuses. They expand your vision. They remind you of who God created you to be. You have been carrying a calling bigger than your current circle. That is why you have felt lonely, even when surrounded by people. That is why small talk has started to feel empty. That is why your spirit longs for more depth, more meaning, more impact. God is responding to that hunger. God is sending someone who speaks your language of faith, who understands your burden, who recognizes the fire God placed inside you. Do not rush the process by forcing connections that God did not authorize. When God sends someone, you will not have to chase them. Divine connections flow naturally. They are marked by mutual respect, spiritual resonance, and shared values. God is not a God of confusion. If a relationship drains your peace, clouds your vision, or weakens your integrity, it is not from God. The person God is sending may not look impressive at first glance. They may not come with loud announcements or dramatic entrances. God often wraps destiny in humility. Pay attention to consistency, character, and fruit, not just words. God values faithfulness over flash. The one sent by God will carry wisdom. Not manipulation. Encouragement, not control. Truth, not flattery. You must also understand that when God sends someone to change your life, God is also changing you to sustain that connection. This season requires maturity. It requires humility. It requires obedience. You cannot receive divine alignment while holding on to pride, fear, or past wounds. Let God heal what is broken inside you so you do not bleed on those sent to bless you. There are doors you cannot open by yourself, and there are battles you are not meant to fight alone. God knows your limits, and God honors partnership. That is why God sends people to strengthen what is weak, to complement what is missing, to support what is heavy. This is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of divine design. You may have been asking God, when will my life change? Hear this truth. Your life changes when your connections change. God shifts your environment by shifting your relationships. That is why God sometimes removes people suddenly. It is not punishment, it is protection. God clears space so the right person can enter without obstruction. The person God is sending may challenge your comfort zone. They may speak truth you were avoiding. They may push you to act when you were hesitating. Do not resist divine pressure. Growth often feels uncomfortable before it feels rewarding. Trust God's wisdom more than your emotions. God sees the end from the beginning. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. God's timing is exact. What feels late to you is perfectly aligned in heaven. The person meant to change your life is not lost, delayed, or confused. God is guiding them just as intentionally as God is guiding you. Prepare your heart, prepare your mind, prepare your habits. Divine encounters require readiness. Pray for discernment, not desperation. Pray for wisdom, not impatience. Pray for alignment, not just relief. God answers prayers in ways that produce lasting transformation, not temporary comfort. When this person arrives, honor them. Value the connection. Do not sabotage it with fear or insecurity. Trust that God knows what God is doing. If God sent them, God will sustain the purpose of that relationship. Your responsibility is obedience, humility, and faith. You are standing at the edge of change. The lie fear you have known is about to expand. Your perspective is about to shift. Your capacity is about to grow. God is sending someone who will unlock doors you did not know existed and awaken strength you forgot you had. There are moments when God does not just adjust your circumstances, but rearranges your entire atmosphere. This is one of those moments. God is not simply adding something small to your life. God is orchestrating a turning point. The person being sent is not an accessory to your story. They are a catalyst. When God sends a catalyst, dormant potential awakens, hidden strength rises, and delayed promises begin to move. What you could not do alone, God allows you to accomplish through alignment. You must understand that God's method is intentional. God does not rush destiny, but God never misses timing. The silence you endured was not emptiness, it was construction. God was building your inner foundation so that when the right person arrives, the structure will not collapse under the weight of blessing. Many people fail not because God did not send help, but because they were not prepared to steward what God sent. This season is different. You are being refined to recognize value, not just relief. The person God is sending will carry discernment that sees beyond your surface. They will recognize the calling on your life even when you doubt yourself. God often sends people who see what you cannot yet see. Their words will awaken something deep inside you, not through age flattery, but through truth. Not through pressure, but through clarity. God uses voices to echo what heaven has already spoken about you. You have prayed for breakthrough, but God answers breakthrough with responsibility. This connection will not make life easier in the shallow sense. It will make life stronger in the eternal sense. God does not send people to entertain your comfort, but to align you with purpose. Expect conversations that stretch your thinking, moments that test your obedience, and opportunities that require courage. This is how God grows those who are chosen. Some of you have been wounded by past connections. You trusted and it hurt. You opened your heart and it disappointed you. God is aware. God does not dismiss your pain, but God refuses to let pain define your future. The next person God sends will not exploit your weakness. They will honor your healing. God redeems patterns by introducing wisdom. Where there was confusion, God brings clarity. Where there was manipulation, God brings integrity. Do not look for perfection in the one God sends. Look for alignment. God works through imperfect people with surrendered hearts. The power is not in the person. The power is in God who sent them. When you focus too much on flaws, you misfunction. God does not send flawless vessels, but God sends purposeful ones. Stay focused on fruit, not appearance. This person may arrive when you least expect it. Perhaps when you feel stable enough to stop praying desp, irately, or tired enough to stop striving. God often releases divine encounters when you finally let go of control. Surrender creates space for alignment. When you stop forcing outcomes, God starts directing encounters. Be aware that when God sends someone to change your life, resistance often rises. Old fears resurface, doubt whispers, insecurity tries to speak louder than faith. This is not coincidence, it is confirmation that something meaningful is happening. Do not allow old wounds to sabotage new beginnings. God does not repeat chapters, God writes new ones. The connection God sends may require you to release familiar habits. Comfort zones will be challenged. You cannot walk into new territory carrying old limitations. God is inviting you to trust deeper, listen closer, and obey faster. Delayed obedience delays manifestation. When God aligns people, God expects movement. This person may not stay forever, but their impact will. Some divine connections are bridges, not destinations. They help you cross into new levels of understanding, authority, and faith. Do not cling beyond assignment. Honor seasons. God knows when a chapter has fulfilled its purpose. You are not meant to idolize the person God sends. They are not your source. God is your source. They are a channel, not the origin. When you keep God at the center, relationships stay healthy, balanced, and fruitful. Dependency on God preserves clarity. Gratitude honors the gift without replacing the giver. The shift you are entering will require courage to be seen. You can no longer hide your calling or minimize your voice. The person God sends will call you forward, not backward. They will not tolerate excuses that keep you small. God is done with shrinking you to fit spaces that cannot contain your destiny. You may notice that as this season approaches, distractions increase. This is not random. Distraction is often the enemy's response to alignment. Guard your focus, protect your time, stay sensitive to God's direction. The closer you are to breakthrough, the louder the noise becomes. Choose discernment over impulse. God is also preparing the other person. They are going through their own refining. They are learning obedience, patience, and humility. Divine connections require mutual preparation. Trust that God is working on both sides simultaneously. Heaven is never disorganized. When the meeting happens, there may not be fireworks, but there will be peace. God's confirmation often feels calm, not chaotic. Do not overlook peace because you expect drama. God's presence carries assurance, not anxiety. Learn to recognize peace as a sign of alignment. This connection will activate dormant gifts. Skills you never used will surface. Confidence you did not know you had will rise. God placed these gifts inside you long ago, but timing matters. God reveals gifts when there is purpose for them. You are entering that purpose. Stay humble, stay teachable. Pride blocks instruction, and instruction unlocks elevation. The person God sends may correct you. Receive it without defensiveness. Correction is protection in disguise. God uses correction to preserve destiny. Remember that God sends people, but God remains your anchor. Pray continuously. Seek God daily. Let every relationship flow from your connection with God, not replace it. When God is first, everything else aligns properly. You are closer than you think. What you have been waiting for is already in motion. God does not announce every miracle before it arrives. Some blessings appear quietly and grow loudly. Stay faithful in the small moments. Stay obedient in unseen places. Stay expectant without becoming restless. God is sending someone to change your life, but more importantly, God is changing you to receive what has been sent. There is a sacred law you must recognize. God does not elevate isolation. God elevates alignment. When God prepares to expand your influence, your reach, your impact, God also prepares the people connected to that expansion. This is why you have felt an inner stirring that refuses to settle for small outcomes. God has been enlarging your spiritual capacity so you can carry greater responsibility without losing humility. The person God sends will not only walk with you, they will witness the weight God places upon you and still remain steady. Understand this deeply. God never sends someone merely to comfort you. God sends someone to awaken you. Comfort can soothe for a moment, but awakening transforms for a lifetime. Expect this connection to call you higher than your habits, higher than your fears, higher than your past identity. God is not interested in who you were. God is invested in who you are becoming. The one sent will speak into that becoming, not the former version of you. There are divine conversations ahead that will rearrange how you see yourself. Words spoken at the right moment carry power beyond logic. God uses timing as a weapon against limitation. A single sentence spoken by the right person at the right time can dismantle years of doubt. This is not exaggeration, this is alignment. When God authorizes a voice, that voice carries weight. You must be willing to listen differently in this season. Listening is not passive, it is spiritual positioning. Pride listens to respond, but humility listens to receive. The person God sends may reveal blind spots you did not know existed. Do not resist exposure. It is not condemnation, it is correction wrapped in care. God exposes to heal, not to shame. This season will also require restraint. Not every revelation needs an audience. Not every blessing needs an announcement. God often tests maturity by silence before release. Protect what God is forming. Some connections fail not because God did not send them, but because they were exposed too early to voices that did not understand their purpose. As God sends someone into your life, expect opposition to your consistency. Old temptations may resurface, and familiar distractions may attempt to pull you backward. This is the moment to anchor yourself deeper in obedience. Momentum is fragile when discipline is weak. God sustains what obedience protects. You are learning that faith is not emotional excitement. Faith is disciplined trust. God honors steady belief more than dramatic declarations. The person sent by God will recognize your discipline, not just your enthusiasm. They will value your consistency in private more than your confidence in public. This alignment will stretch your faith beyond what you can control. God is inviting you into reliance, not self-sufficiency. Strength is not the absence of need. Strength is knowing where to turn when need arises. God is dismantling the illusion that you must do everything alone. Divine partnership does not weaken you. It completes the assignment. There is also a warning you must receive with humility. Do not delay obedience when clarity comes. God reveals direction in stages, but once direction is clear, hesitation becomes resistance. The person God sends will often confirm what God has already been whispering to you. When confirmation arrives, act with courage. This connection may require forgiveness toward yourself or others. Unforgiveness clouds discernment and contaminates alignment. You cannot hold tomorrow while gripping yesterday. Release what God has already released. Healing is not forgetting. Healing is choosing freedom over familiarity. You will know, Tice, that your prayers are changing. You are no longer asking only for rescue, but for refinement. This is maturity. God responds to growth-oriented prayers with destiny-oriented answers. The person being sent is part of that answer. Your role is not to rush the encounter, but to remain available. Availability is a posture of trust. When your heart is open and your spirit is attentive, God positions you precisely where you need to be. Missed moments often come from divided focus. Be present. When the connection deepens, guard against comparison. Your journey is unique. God does not duplicate callings. God customizes them. Celebrate what God is doing through others without diminishing what God is doing through you. Comparison breeds insecurity, and insecurity disrupts alignment. You are entering a phase where accountability will matter more than affirmation. Praise feels good, but accountability produces growth. The person God sends will not always agree with you, but they will always aim for your growth. That is how you recognize divine intention. Stay rooted in gratitude. Gratitude keeps the heart soft and the spirit receptive. God entrusts more to those who honor what they already have. Gratitude transforms ordinary moments into sacred ground. Remember that God's plans unfold progressively. Do not demand the full picture when God is giving you the next step. Faith walks forward without seeing the entire road. The person God sends may only be assigned to walk with you for our part of the journey, but that part will be essential. You are being invited into a higher level of trust. Trust in God's wisdom. Trust in God's timing. Trust in God's selection. God sees what you cannot see. God knows what you do not know. Rest in that truth. As you continue forward, stay anchored in prayer, guided by discernment, and strengthened by obedience. God is not experimenting with your life. God is executing a precise design. Every delay had purpose. Every loss had instruction. Every season had preparation. What is coming will make sense of what has been confusing. What is arriving will justify what was painful. What God is sending will align with who you are becoming. Keep walking, keep believing, keep trusting. God is faithful to complete what God has begun. There is a deeper truth unfolding now, one that requires spiritual maturity to grasp. God does not only send someone to change your external circumstances, God sends someone to confront your internal resistance. Many people want transformation without confrontation, elevation without exposure, blessing without responsibility. But God is precise. The change God is bringing will first refine your inner posture before it reshapes your outer reality. The person God sends will activate growth you cannot avoid, and that is how you will know this encounter is divine. You are entering a phase where excuses lose their power. God is removing the comfort of delay. You have known what to do for a long time, but Timmy, Yonggi restrained you. Now, alignment demands action. The person God sends will not tolerate stagnation. Their presence will stir urgency. Not panic, but holy urgency. God is shifting you from preparation into execution. Be aware that God often sends people who do not feed your ego but sharpen your discipline. Ego wants applause. Destiny requires obedience. The one sent by God will value your integrity more than your image. They will care more about what you become than how you appear. This kind of connection may feel uncomfortable at first, because it confronts the parts of you that prefer ease over excellence. God is also teaching you how to trust again, but wisely. Trust does not mean blind surrender. It means discerned openness. You are no longer naive, but you are not closed. That balance is a gift from God. The person being sent will honor your boundaries while still encouraging your openness. God is restoring your ability to connect without fear. This season will require you to speak with clarity. Silence protected you before, but now silence may limit you. God is calling you to articulate vision, to name purpose, to declare direction. The person God sends will help you put language to what has only existed as a feeling. When vision is spoken, momentum begins. Expect your prayer life to deepen, not because you are desperate, but because you are aligned. Aligned people pray differently. They pray with confidence, not anxiety. They pray with expectation, not begging. God responds to faith that is settled, not frantic. The connection God sends will strengthen your confidence in approaching God boldly and humbly at the same time. There is also a call to patience you must honor. Not everything will unfold immediately. Some divine connections grow slowly but firmly. Rushing intimacy can weaken purpose. Let trust build through consistency. God values foundations over speed. What lasts is built with care, not haste. You may notice that your tolerance for superficiality is decreasing. Conversations without substance will no longer satisfy you. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. God is refining your appetite. When your appetite changes, your environment must change as well. The person God sends will meet you at the level of depth God has cultivated within you. Do not underestimate how much God values obedience in small matters. The next major shift may be unlocked by a minor act of faithfulness. Return the call, show up on time, speak truth gently, walk away when instructed. These moments are not insignificant, they are gateways. God often hides big outcomes inside small decisions. As this connection develops, you may feel exposed, but exposure under God is protection. God reveals what needs strengthening before pressure arrives. Do not resist refinement. God disciplines what God intends to elevate. The presence of correction is evidence of investment, not rejection. Remember that alignment does not eliminate challenges, it redefines them. You will still face obstacles, but you will face them with clarity, support, and authority. The person God sends will not remove all resistance, but they will help you interpret resistance correctly. Not every obstacle is opposition. Some are instruction. Guard your humility fiercely. Elevation tests character more than hardship ever did. Stay teachable even when progress accelerates. God withdraws from pride but draws near to humility. The connection God sends thrives in an atmosphere where God is honored above ego. You are also learning to wait without doubting. Waiting does not mean inactivity. It means preparation with trust. While you wait, refine your habits, align your routines, clean your spiritual house. God sends people into environments that are ready, not chaotic. Be attentive to patterns breaking. Cycles that once repeated are losing power. God is interrupting generational limitations, emotional habits, and self-imposed ceilings. The person God sends may be unfamiliar because they represent a future you have never lived before. Do not reject what feels new just because it feels unfamiliar. There will come a moment when you realize this connection was not accidental. You will look back and see how events align too precisely to be coincidence. That realization will strengthen your faith and silence your doubts. God leaves signatures on divine encounters for those who pay attention. Stay grounded, stay obedient, stay open. God is not finished revealing the full essence of this season. What has begun quietly will grow with strength. What started with preparation will end with purpose. God is faithful, and God completes what God initiates. You are not chasing change. Change is being sent to you. And when it arrives fully, you will recognize that God was guiding every step long before you understood the destination. There is also a refining of vision taking place, and you must not ignore it. God is sharpening how you see, because perception determines direction. When your vision is unclear, even divine help can be misunderstood. But when God clears your sight, you begin to recognize purpose before it announces itself. The person God sends will arrive at a moment when your spiritual eyesight is strong enough to perceive intention, not just appearance. God is training you to see beyond emotion and recognize assignment. You must understand that God never sends someone to compete with you. Competition is born from insecurity, and insecurity is not from God. The one sent by God will complement your strength, not threaten it. They will rejoice in your growth, not resent it. God aligns people whose callings interlock, not collide. Where there is constant rivalry, divine purpose cannot breathe. There will be moments when you feel stretched beyond what feels reasonable. Do not interpret stretching as harm. Stretching is preparation for capacity. God expands you before God fills you. The person God sends will stretch your thinking, your patience, and your faith. But they will not break you. God never sends what destroys. God sends what develops. You are also being taught discernment through peace, not pressure. In the past, urgency may have driven your decisions. Now peace will guide them. God's peace is not passive. It is authoritative. When something is aligned, peace remains even when circumstances are demanding. The person God sends will not rush you into confusion. They will walk with you in clarity. There is a hidden strength God is activating within you. The strength to say no. Saying no is not rejection, it is alignment. You cannot receive what God is sending if your hands are full of what God did not assign. Release is an act of faith. Trust that what God removes creates space for what God intends. This season will also test your consistency. Excitement fades, but discipline sustains. God is watching how you show up when no one is watching. The person God sends will respect your private devotion more than your public performance. God honors integrity that does not need an audience. Do not underestimate the power of shared obedience. When two people align under God's direction, momentum accelerates. God multiplies obedience. One obedient step can open a door, but aligned obedience can change a landscape. This is why God sends people to move you from isolated effort to multiplied impact. There may be moments when misunderstanding arises. Do not panic. Communication matures relationships. God teaches you to speak truth without defensiveness and listen without fear. Growth requires conversation. Silence out of fear creates distance. Speak with wisdom, humility, and clarity. You are learning that faith is not denial of difficulty. It is confidence in God's authority over difficulty. The person God sends will not minimize challenges, but they will never magnify them above God. Perspective is powerful. God-centered perspective transforms obstacles into instructions. As you continue forward, be careful not to romanticize the past. Nostalgia can distort truth. God is not calling you backward. God is drawing you forward. The future requires new thinking, new strategies, and new connections. The person God sends belongs to where you are going, not where you have been. There is also a call to steward your words carefully. Life and direction are shaped by what you speak. Complaints weaken faith. Gratitude strengthens it. The one God sends will speak life, but you must also guard your language. Speak what aligns with God's promise, not what echoes fear. God is also teaching you how to rest without disengaging. Rest is not withdrawal, it is renewal. Burnout clouds discernment. God wants you strong, not merely busy. The person God sends will respect rest, boundaries, and balance. God's will never demands the destruction of your soul. Pay attention to the shift in your desires. What once excited you may no longer satisfy you. This is not loss, it is growth. God reshapes desire to match destiny. The person God sends will resonate with your refined desires, not your former cravings. You are entering a time when obedience will feel lighter, not heavier. When alignment is correct, obedience flows naturally. Resistance decreases because clarity increases. God is removing inner conflict so you can move forward with confidence. There will be confirmation, not always loud, but consistent. Repeated alignment, recurring peace, and steady fruit are signs of God's hand. Do not chase dramatic signs. Trust sustained direction. God leads with faithfulness, not theatrics. Remain anchored in humility. Success can be more dangerous than struggle if humility is lost. Keep honoring God in progress. Gratitude keeps the heart aligned and the spirit sensitive. God entrusts greater influence to those who remain grateful. You are not walking into uncertainty, you are walking into intention. God does nothing accidentally. Every step, every delay, every encounter has been accounted for. The person God sends is part of a larger design that extends beyond what you currently see. Continue to seek God first. Let prayer remain your compass. Let obedience remain your foundation. Let trust remain your posture. What God is unfolding will require faith, but it will also produce peace. You are being shaped for significance, not convenience. God's work in you is precise, patient, and powerful. The alignment coming will not only change your life, it will expand your responsibility to serve with integrity, wisdom, and courage. Stay attentive, stay faithful, stay aligned. God is still sending, still guiding, still preparing. And what God has set in motion cannot be undone. God told me to warn you about your pillow, and you are not aware of what is happening there. You are not aware of what is being formed there. You are not aware of what is being planted there. And if you miss this moment, you may miss the very instruction God is using to shift your life. You think your pillow is just a place of rest, but God says it has become a place of influence, a silent altar, a hidden doorway where your thoughts, your fears, your faith, and your future meet when no one else is watching. I feel a deep urgency rising as I speak, because many people are praying loudly during the day, but surrendering quietly at night. When the lights go off and the room becomes still, your pillow hears what your mouth never says. Your pillow absorbs the weight of your worries, the residue of your disappointments, the replay of your regrets, and God says, this is where battles are either lost or won. You have been asking God to move, but God says, look at what you are carrying to bed. You have been asking God to speak, but God says, look at what is crowding your mind when you lay your head down. The pillow does not judge you, but it records you. It receives the final thoughts you feed it, and those thoughts shape the spirit you wake up with. God says many destinies are delayed, not because of what happens in public, but because of what happens in private. The pillow has become a place where fear is rehearsed, where doubt is replayed, where offense is nurtured, where anxiety is given permission to stay overnight. And God says, you cannot sleep in fear and wake up in faith. You cannot rest in worry and rise in power. You cannot lay your head on hopelessness and expect strength to greet you in the morning. God is not condemning you, but He is confronting you because He loves you too much to let you rest in something that is quietly draining your spirit. Hear this with clarity. God speaks when the world is silent. Throughout history, God has always visited people in moments of rest, stillness, and surrender. When the body is tired, the heart becomes honest. When the noise fades, the soul becomes loud. But the enemy also knows this. That is why the pillow has become a battlefield. That is why thoughts intensify at night. That is why memories resurface when you are alone. That is why the mind races when the body wants to sleep. God says, this is not accidental. What you allow to linger on your pillow is shaping the direction of your life. You have underestimated the power of your final thoughts. God says the last thing you meditate on before sleep becomes the first thing your spirit carries into the next day. If you fall asleep rehearsing loss, you wake up expecting defeat. If you fall asleep in resentment, you wake up heavy. If you fall asleep feeling abandoned, you wake up disconnected. But God says when you learn to sanctify your pillow, when you learn to surrender your thoughts before rest, when you learn to hand God the final word of your day, everything begins to shift. Peace stops being a concept and becomes a covering. God is warning you because He is preparing you. There are instructions, ideas, and strategies God wants to release to you, but your mind has been too crowded to receive them. God says you have been so busy surviving that you have forgotten how to be still. Your pillow was designed to be a place of renewal, but it has become a place of emotional labor. You lay down physically, but you keep working mentally. You rest your body, but your soul stays on duty. God says, this is why you wake up tired even after sleep. This is why joy feels distant. This is why motivation fades quickly. Your pillow has been carrying burdens it was never meant to hold. God says, give me the weight before you lay down. Give me the conversation you replay. Give me the offense you keep revisiting. Give me the fear of tomorrow. Give me the regret of yesterday. God is not asking for perfection. He is asking for surrender. When you place your head down with trust instead of tension, God does His deepest work. God restores when you release control. God strengthens when you stop striving. God speaks when you stop forcing answers. Some of you have been experiencing restless sleep, recurring dreams, or sudden awakenings, and you thought it was stress. But God says your spirit is alert because something is shifting. God says He has been trying to get your attention in the quiet hours, but your thoughts have been louder than His voice. The pillow is where alignment happens. It is where faith is either reinforced or eroded. And God says tonight can be different if you choose differently. Do not underestimate the sacredness of rest. Rest is not weakness, it is trust. When you lay down in peace, you are declaring that God is in control, even when you are unconscious. When you surrender your thoughts, you are declaring that God is working even when you are not. The pillow becomes powerful when it becomes a place of surrender instead of struggle. God says, stop carrying tomorrow into tonight. Stop dragging yesterday into your rest. You cannot heal in a place where you keep reopening wounds. God knows the thoughts you never speak. He knows the tears you swallow before sleep. He knows the questions you ask in the dark, and He is not distant, He is near. But God will not force His peace on a mind that refuses to let go. The warning is not to frighten you, it is to free you. God is calling you to guard your thoughts, especially at night, because your spirit is most open then. What you feed your mind before sleep determines the atmosphere you wake up into. You have been praying for change, and God says start with your rest. You have been asking for clarity, and God says start with stillness. You have been asking for strength, and God says stop fighting in your sleep. Your pillow should not be a place of torment. It should be a place of trust. God wants to restore the peace that belongs to you, but peace must be chosen, not chased. Some of you have made your pillow an altar of fear without realizing it. Every night you lay down and offer your worries, your worst-case scenarios, your self-criticism, God says change the offering. Offer gratitude instead of fear. Offer trust instead of control. Offer surrender instead of resistance. When you change what you bring to the pillow, God changes what you receive when you rise. God says the reason this message feels heavy is because it is targeted. He is warning you now because the next season of your life requires a rested spirit, a clear mind, and a guarded heart. You cannot step into what God has prepared if you are constantly exhausted internally. The pillow is not small, it is strategic. It is the threshold between days. It is the reset point God designed for you. Do not corrupt it with worry. Tonight, God says, lay down differently. Speak peace over your thoughts. Release what you cannot fix. Trust what you cannot see. Let God be the final voice you listen to. Let God be the final authority over your day. When your head touches the pillow, let it touch faith, not fear. Let it touch trust, not tension. Let it touch surrender, not struggle. God is not finished with you. He is not distant from you. He is not silent toward you. He is simply calling you to create space. The pillow is where space is made. Space for healing, space for instruction, space for renewal, space for God to do what only He can do when you finally rest. You do not need to understand everything before you sleep. You do not need to solve everything tonight. God works while you rest. God restores while you sleep. God aligns what you release. But you must let go. You must trust. You must stop letting the night steal what the day could not. Guard your pillow, because God is ready to meet you there, to restore you there, to strengthen you there, to speak to you there, to lift you there, and to prepare you quietly, gently, faithfully as you finally lay your head down in peace and allow God to take over what you were never meant to carry alone. And as you breathe, and as your thoughts slow, and as your heart softens, and as trust replaces tension, and as surrender becomes natural, and as rest becomes real, and as God begins to work in ways you cannot see yet, but will soon recognize when you rise and realize something within you has shifted, and you are no longer carrying what once followed you into the night. God says there is a reason the night exposes what the day conceals. In the daylight you are busy, distracted, moving, producing, responding. But at night, when activity stops, truth surfaces. The pillow becomes a witness to your inner life. God says many people have learned how to function, but few have learned how to rest in trust. And without trust, rest is impossible. You can close your eyes and still be alert inside. You can lie down and still be standing guard emotionally. God says this constant inner vigilance is not strength. It is fear disguised as responsibility. And fear, when allowed to settle at night, hardens into patterns that shape the next day. God is calling you into a deeper awareness now. Not awareness of danger, but awareness of presence. God is near when you are quiet. God is attentive when you are still. The silence of night is not emptiness, it is invitation. But many have filled that invitation with noise, screens, endless thoughts, rehearsed conversations, imagined outcomes. God says you have trained your mind to stay active because you are afraid of what will surface if you stop. But what surfaces is not meant to destroy you. It is meant to be healed. And healing cannot happen while you are running. The pillow is where God invites honesty. This is where masks fall away. This is where you admit what you do not say out loud. God says, stop judging yourself in these moments. Stop condemning what God is revealing. Revelation is not accusation. Exposure is not rejection. God shows you what rises at night so He can free you from it, not shame you for it. But freedom requires cooperation. You must be willing to let God address what you have normalized. God says some of you have mistaken exhaustion for humility. What? All think carrying everything proves faithfulness. But God says faithfulness is knowing when to release. You think worrying all night means you care. But God says worry is not care, it is mistrust. Care hands things to God. Worry tries to be God. And the pillow exposes this struggle because it is the one place where pretending costs too much energy. There is a sacred exchange God wants to happen every night. God invites you to lay down your burdens and receive rest in return. But if you keep holding what God is asking for, your hands remain full and you receive nothing new. God is not withholding peace. He is waiting for surrender. Peace is not something God throws at you. It is something that settles when resistance ends. God says your dreams matter more than you think. Not because of symbolism, but because of atmosphere. The emotional environment you sleep in affects what your spirit processes. If you fall asleep in fear, your mind continues working against you. If you fall asleep in trust, your spirit aligns with truth. This is why God urges you to guard the final moments of your day. What you agree with before sleep becomes what you reinforce subconsciously. God says some battles do not need to be fought. They need to be released. You have been trying to solve tomorrow at midnight. You have been trying to rewrite yesterday at 2 a.m. God says this is not wisdom, this is weariness. Wisdom rests, wisdom trusts, wisdom knows that God does not need your sleeplessness to be effective. God works with or without your anxiety, but you suffer when you carry what belongs to Him. Listen carefully. God is not only concerned about what keeps you awake, but about what wakes up with you. When you start your day already tired, already irritated, already heavy, it is often because your night was filled with internal conflict. God says the day is not defeating you, the night is draining you. And that is why this warning matters. God wants to restore the rhythm of your life, not just your productivity. There is also something God wants to deposit in you at night: guidance, direction, quiet confidence. But deposits require space. You cannot receive new strength if you are clinging to old fear. God says, stop reviewing your failures when you should be receiving instruction. Stop rehearsing conversations when you should be renewing your spirit. The pillow is not for replaying pain, it is for preparing purpose. God says some of you fear rest, because rest forces trust. When you stop thinking, you feel vulnerable. When you stop planning, you feel exposed. But God says vulnerability before Him is safety, not risk. You are safest when you stop defending yourself internally and let God be your defense. The pillow becomes a place of refuge when you stop using it as a courtroom where you put yourself on trial every night. God wants to recalibrate your inner voice, that voice that criticizes you when the room is quiet, that voice that predicts failure, that voice that reminds you of what went wrong. God says that voice is not authority. It is habit, and habits can be broken, but they are not broken by force, they are broken by replacement. When you intentionally turn your thoughts toward trust, gratitude, and surrender, the old voice loses power. God says tonight is not about effort, it is about decision. Decide what atmosphere you will sleep in. Decide what you will agree with. Decide who has the final word. The pillow listens, but it does not decide. You decide. God honors intention. Even when your thoughts wander, the direction you choose matters. God sees the choice to trust, even when fear tries to interrupt it. Do not rush past this moment. God is not speaking loudly because He wants to scare you. He is speaking clearly because He wants to prepare you. There is a season ahead that requires emotional stability, spiritual clarity, and internal strength. God is strengthening you quietly, starting at night, starting with rest, starting with trust. God says, when you learn to sleep in peace, you will wake up with authority. When you rest without fear, you rise without heaviness. When you give God the night, the day begins to change. This is not mystical, it is spiritual alignment. God designed rest as a weapon against fear and trust as a shield against anxiety. God says there is a difference between lying down and yielding. Many lie down physically, but they do not yield internally. They keep control clenched in their thoughts, gripping outcomes, gripping expectations, gripping fears. God says yielding is an act of faith that happens when no one applauds you, when no one sees you, when you cannot prove it to anyone else. Yielding happens when you finally admit that your strength is limited, but God's authority is not. The pillow becomes holy ground when yielding replaces resistance. God says some of you have trained yourselves to survive instead of to trust. Survival mode keeps you alert, guarded, suspicious of rest. Trust mode allows you to breathe, to soften, to let go. God did not design your spirit to live in constant alertness. He designed it to live in confidence, confidence that He is aware, He is present, He is active even when you are asleep. When you deny yourself rest, you are not proving devotion, you are revealing fear that God might not handle what you release. God wants to confront a hidden belief tonight. The belief that if you stop thinking, everything will fall apart. God says, look at your life. Has all your thinking truly held everything together? Or has it exhausted you while God still carried you anyway? God has sustained you through moments you did not plan for, through outcomes you could not predict, through seasons you did not understand, and yet you are still here. That alone is evidence that God does not need your anxiety to accomplish His purpose. God says the mind is a powerful tool, but it becomes a prison when it never rests. A rested mind hears God clearly. A restless mind distorts truth. This is why God calls you to stillness, not to silence your thoughts completely, but to realign them. Stillness is not emptiness, it is order. It is allowing God to take His rightful place above your reasoning, above your assumptions, above your fears. Some of you have been asking God for signs, but God says He has been offering peace, and you have been declining it. Peace is not passive. Peace is a decision to trust God beyond what you can verify. God says when you learn to accept peace at night, clarity begins to rise during the day. Confusion often survives on exhaustion. Fear feeds on sleeplessness. When rest returns, discernment sharpens. God says your pillow also reveals what you worship unconsciously. Whatever holds your attention at night holds authority over your emotions. If fear has authority, it speaks the loudest when everything else is quiet. If trust has authority, it steadies you even in silence. God says, examine what has been governing your thoughts after dark. Not to condemn yourself, but to realign yourself. There is a sacred discipline God is calling you into, not a rigid routine, but an intentional surrender, ending your day by acknowledging God's sovereignty, acknowledging that He is sufficient, acknowledging that you are not alone. This acknowledgement shifts the atmosphere of your rest. It tells your spirit that it is safe to stand down, safe to stop guarding, safe to stop predicting danger. God says some of you fear the night because the night has been lonely. But God says loneliness is not solved by distraction. It is healed by awareness of His presence. God does not abandon you when the lights go off. He does not step away when the room is quiet. He is closest when everything else fades. If you would stop filling the silence with worry, you would notice how near He already is. God also says there are answers you cannot access through effort. They come through rest. There is wisdom that does not arrive through analysis but through alignment. When you release control, your spirit becomes receptive. When your body rests, your inner awareness sharpens. God often whispers what He does not shout. And whispers require stillness. You have been thinking you need more discipline, more pressure, more force. God says you need trust. Trust is not laziness. Trust is obedience to God's design. God designed night as a reset, not a replay. He designed sleep as restoration, not interrogation. When you turn your nights into interrogations of your life, you wake up burdened instead of built. God is calling you to stop carrying invisible weight, the kind of weight no one else sees, but you feel every night, the weight of unspoken expectations, the weight of needing to be strong for everyone else, the weight of unanswered questions. God says you do not have to be strong in the dark. Strength is not required when God is watching over you. God says when you learn to rest fully, you will notice your reactions changing. What NCE triggered you will lose its grip. What once overwhelmed you will feel manageable. Not because the circumstances changed, but because you did. Rested faith responds differently than exhausted faith. Rested faith listens before reacting. Rested faith remembers God's past faithfulness. Rested faith does not panic at uncertainty. This is why God is so specific about the pillow. It is the place where habits are formed quietly. It is the place where faith is either reinforced or weakened without public display. God says, guard this place intentionally, not with rules, but with reverence, not with fear, but with awareness. Let the final moments of your day belong to God, not to anxiety. God says you do not need perfect peace to begin resting. You need willingness. Willingness to trust a little more than yesterday. Willingness to release one worry instead of all of them. Willingness to say, God, I cannot carry this tonight. That simple release shifts more than you realize. And as this becomes a practice, not a performance, something changes within you. You stop bracing for impact every morning. You stop waking up already defeated. You begin to rise with quiet confidence. Not because you know everything will go smoothly, but because you know God is present in whatever comes. God says this message is not about sleep alone. It is about authority. Whoever governs your nights will influence your days. If fear governs your nights, it will shadow your days. If trust governs your night, it will strengthen your days. Choose who has authority when no one is watching. God says there is also a hidden agreement being made every night, whether you realize it or not. An agreement between what you believe and what you expect. When you lie down expecting chaos, your spirit prepares for struggle. When you lie down trusting God, your spirit prepares for alignment. Expectation is not passive, it is formative. God says many people are shaping tomorrow unconsciously through what they expect in the quiet moments before sleep. Change the expectation, and the internal atmosphere begins to change. God is reminding you that your mind is not meant to be a courtroom where every mistake is retried. It is meant to be a dwelling place for truth. When you replay your failures at night, you are not repenting, you are imprisoning yourself. God says repentance releases, condemnation traps. God does not rehearse your past when you rest. He prepares your future. And when you choose to rest in that truth, you step out of self-punishment and into restoration. There is also a power in forgiveness that God wants you to understand in relation to rest. Unforgiveness is heavy. It tightens the chest, sharpens the mind, hardens the heart. And it often speaks loudest at night. God says you cannot rest deeply while holding bitterness quietly. Forgiveness is not approval of what hurt you. It is refusal to let it occupy your inner space. When you forgive before you sleep, you are not excusing the past. You are reclaiming your peace. God says some of you have been trying to pray your way out of exhaustion while refusing to release resentment. But prayer and resentment cannot coexist in peace. One cancels the other. God invites you to lay down grudges along with worries, to unclench your spirit, to stop reliving conversations that already ended. God is not asking you to forget. He is asking you to trust Him with justice so you can rest. God also speaks about obedience in rest. Obedience is not only action, it is alignment. When God says rest, He is not suggesting comfort. He is commanding trust. Refusing to rest when God calls you to is a subtle form of resistance. It says, I will handle this myself. God says obedience looks like putting the matter down, even when you do not see the solution yet. That is faith in motion, even while still. God says the night is not dangerous, it is diagnostic. It reveals where trust is lacking, where wounds remain untreated, where control has replaced faith. And diagnosis is not condemnation. God diagnoses in order to heal. The things that surface when you lay down are invitations, not accusations. Invitations to release, invitations to trust, invitations to be honest with God without fear of rejection. God says you do not need to fill the night with words. You do not need long speeches or perfect thoughts. Sometimes surrender is a simple acknowledgement. God, you see this, that acknowledgement alone shifts weight. It reminds your spirit that it is not alone, not responsible for everything, not abandoned to figure life out by itself. There is a strength that only comes from consistent rest. Not emotional numbness, but quiet resilience. God says, rested people respond instead of react. Rested people listen instead of panic. Rested people move with clarity instead of urgency. This is why the enemy targets your rest, because rest strengthens discernment, and discernment threatens deception. God says you have underestimated how much your nights influence your confidence. When you wake up after a night of internal struggle, you question yourself more. When you wake up after a night of surrender, you stand taller inside. Confidence is not arrogance, it is settled trust, and trust grows in stillness. God also says there are seasons where He intentionally quiets your life, not to isolate you, but to realign you. Silence is not punishment, it is preparation. If you fight the silence, you miss the preparation. But if you accept it, you begin to hear what was always there beneath the noise. God is calling you to steward your inner life with intention. Stewardship is not control, it is care. Care for what enters your mind. Care for what you replay. Care for what you agree with, especially at night, when your guard is down and your spirit is open. What you allow to settle then takes root more deeply. God says gratitude is also a key to restful sleep. Not forced gratitude, but honest recognition. When you acknowledge even small moments of grace before you rest, your spirit shifts from scarcity to trust. Gratitude does not deny difficulty. It anchors you in God's faithfulness despite it. And that anchoring calms the mind. God wants you to understand that rest is not the absence of responsibility. It is the transfer of responsibility. You are not dropping what matters. You are placing it in God's hands. And God's hands do not tremble. God's hands do not tire. God's hands do not lose grip in the night. There are things God will only heal when you stop touching them. Constantly reopening wounds delays healing. God says, stop pressing on what He's already treating. Let the process work. Healing is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is quiet, slow, and unnoticed until one day you realize you no longer ache the same way. God says when you give Him your nights consistently, your days will begin to feel less heavy, not perfect, but lighter, not effortless, but steadier. You will notice that fear no longer greets you first in the morning. Hope will, not loud hope, but calm assurance that you are not facing life alone. God is not asking you to change everything at once. He is asking you to begin where you are most vulnerable, when you are tired, quiet, and honest. Begin there. Let that place be reclaimed. Let that space be restored. Let that habit be reshaped. And as you continue to practice surrender at night, something subtle but powerful happens. Your trust deepens. Your reactions soften. Your inner noise quiets. You become less driven by urgency and more guided by discernment. You stop carrying invisible weight into the next day. You begin to walk with a steadiness that does not come from certainty, but from confidence in God's presence. God is patient with you in this process. He does not demand instant mastery. He honors consistent willingness. Each night, you choose to release instead of rehearse, to trust instead of tense, to surrender instead of strive. You are building an inner foundation that holds when pressure comes. So the pillow remains an invitation, night after night, a place where God meets you not with demands, but with care, not with judgment, but with guidance, not with noise, but with peace. And as you continue to respond to that invitation, the transformation will not announce itself immediately, but it will reveal itself gradually in how you breathe, in how you respond, in how you rise, carrying less weight, standing with more clarity, and moving forward, anchored in the quiet confidence that God has been with you all along, especially in the moments when the world was silent. So now God brings you to a moment of decision, not emotion, not excitement, decision. A decision about who governs your inner life when no one else is present. A decision about whether fear will continue to occupy your nights or whether trust will take its place. God is not forcing this change. He is inviting you into it. Because everything God gives must be received willingly. Rest must be chosen. Surrender must be intentional. Trust must be practiced. God says you do not need to wait for a perfect night to begin. Begin in the middle of your imperfections. Begin with your tiredness. Begin with your questions. Begin with your uncertainty. Bring it all to God, not to fix it in one moment, but to place it where it belongs. God does not ask you to carry what He already offered to handle. He asks you to let go. God reminds you that He has never failed to watch over you, even on the nights you doubted Him. He has sustained you through unconscious hours, through fears you could not name, through worries you could not resolve. If He has carried you this far without your control, He can carry what comes next without your anxiety. That truth alone is enough to rest on. God says when you lay your head down tonight, you are not surrendering strength. You are reclaiming it. You are not losing control. You are aligning with truth. You are not giving up. You are giving over. And what is given to God is never lost. It is transformed. Let your final thoughts be agreement, not resistance. Let your final breath be release, not tension. Let the night no longer be a place where fear negotiates with your mind, but a place where trust settles into your spirit. God is already present there. He has been waiting, not impatiently, but faithfully. And as sleep comes, not forced, but allowed, something within you will recognize safety again. Your body will follow your decision. Your mind will quiet because it no longer has to guard everything. Your spirit will rest because it remembers who is in control. And without effort, without struggle, without noise, God will continue His work, strengthening what was fragile, restoring what was strained, aligning what was scattered, so that when you rise, it will not be with dread, but with steadiness, not with heaviness, but with quiet resolve, not because every problem disappeared, but because God is with you, and you finally allowed yourself to rest in that truth.